Hi everyone, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to do my November wrap up. So, November somehow was just a ridiculously good month for me. I read 37 books and DNF'd one. So, I am going to go through the stats really quick and then go through the books really quick because I know this is the middle of Vlogmas. I don't want to make it a 30-40 minute video, so let's just get into it. I gave 1 DNF, 2 2-stars, 12 3-stars, 11 3.5 stars, 10 4-stars, 2 4.5 stars, and no 5 stars, unfortunately. So that makes my average 3.45, and the Goodread average is 3.8. So I read some that are kind of universally like meh, and I don't know. Overall, 3.45 is not great, but that 10 4-stars is pretty good. So my favorites of the month were Sunrise on Half Moon Bay by Robin Carr and Mistletoe Connection by Chelsea Pennington. And my least favorites were, of course, my DNF, Copper Beach by Maeve Binchy, and my 2 stars were Burial Rites by Hannah Kent and Debutante Divorcee by Plum Sykes. So as far as publication years go, I had 2 published in the 90s, 5 between 2000 and 2009, 9 between 2010 and 2014, 13 between 2015 and 19, and 9 2020 releases. So I didn't go through where I got all of these different books because a lot of them this month I have really read in different formats. Like I read a physical and have an audio or ebook from somewhere else. And so I didn't, like, it was just too hard to parse out exactly where I got what, but I did use a fair amount of NetGalley. Scribd like came in clutch. I had 5 or 6 books, audiobooks off of there. I used some of everything, so that is really great. I read 25 that were on my shelf and 13 that were not, and I love that because you guys know I'm trying to read off my shelf, so 25 off and 13 not, it feels pretty good. I like to be over half, and I definitely got that. So let's go through the books. I am going to talk about them in the order that I read them. I vlog all the time, so I will link my vlogs down below. If you want to hear any more about any book, I also put the thumbnail or the pictures in all of the thumbnails, so you can go to that vlog and find out where I talked about it more. The first one is Love Does by Bob Goff, and I gave that 3 stars. It is a nonfiction about just love, the way love can transform your life. And I gave it 3 stars because Bob Goff has lived an extraordinary life, and he's talking about how to like notice the extraordinary in the ordinary, but all of his examples are pretty extraordinary. So 3 stars. It had a couple good things, but overall just not super relatable to me. Then I read Ladies' Night by Mary Kay Andrews, and I gave that 3.5 stars. And the first line in my review is 3.5 stars. This book was really fun and entertaining, but it won't be memorable. Ding, ding, ding. I read it November 2nd, and I don't remember hardly anything about it, but if you like Mary Kay Andrews, I think you will like it. It's a women's fiction. I would recommend it, even though it's not super memorable. Then was The Copper Beach by Maeve Binchy. This is about a beech tree in front of the school, and it's 8 different people's life stories from the time they're in school as like, it's like an elementary school, to the time they die. And so you get all of that story, and it's just too much in too short of a time, and some of the stories were really hard to get into, and so I DNF'd it. Short stories are not my jam, so then like take that with a grain of salt. Then I read The Debutante Divorcee by Plum Sykes, and this was the one I gave one of the ones I gave 2 stars, and I just don't like it at all. It was superficial. It was like, it just made, like, it was like glamorizing divorce, and these women all were kind of terrible, and I just didn't like that at all. Then I read A Timeless Christmas by Alexis Stanton, and this one I know was a NetGalley read. This is also a Hallmark movie. It's by Hallmark Publishing, and this one is actually really fun. It's about this guy. He has like this manor or whatever in historical times, and he gets dropped kind of into present day in the manor. It's like a museum, and so it's this girl that works there now, and he comes back, and he like, the whole thing is about him, and so it's really fun like seeing him get acclimated to 2020. And I think it would be a better movie than a book, but I still gave the book 4 stars. I really enjoyed the story. Then I read All Through the Night by Mary Higgins Clark, and I gave this 3.5 stars, and I'm almost thinking it might need a 4-star. This is another kind of Christmassy one about, I forget what their names are, but it's Willie and Elvira, I think, are their names. And so I think she maybe has like a series of theirs, but they're an older couple. And it's just really fun. There's somebody dies and leaves her house to her sister, I think, or his sister, somebody's sister, to run this like after school program for these kids. But then somebody else says, no, she changed her will right before she died. She wants these renters to own it, not have the school, etc., etc. And so it's just different things about that. It's Christmassy. It's, I think, set in New York. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Sacred Marriage, What If God Designed Marriage to Make Us More Holy Than to Make Us Happy? And this is by Gary Chapman. I gave this 3.5 stars. I definitely thought the first half was stronger than the second half, but just about how marriage is, of course, your most intimate relationship, probably. And so how God uses that to make you a better person and make you a better Christ follower, and not necessarily to make marriage this happy, wonderful, sunshine and roses thing, because it's not. Then I read the Wildstone series by Jill Shalvis, and I'm not going to go through each book, but I gave them all 3.5 or 4 stars. I really enjoyed the series. It's kind of a mix of women's fiction and romance. Some books lean more heavily one way or the other, but this is my introduction into Jill Shalvis. I read it because my great friend Bree from Falling for Romance on Instagram, she loves Jill Shalvis, so I read it kind of in honor of her for her birthday. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised. I really would like to pick up more Jill Shalvis. She's a little steamier than I typically like, but it didn't bother me too much in this series. And I know there's a Christmas novella that I think is probably just released or is just about to release, and then another book coming out soon. So I'm really excited to have read that. Then I read, let's see, that was quite a few because there's novellas in between and there's a lot of books going on. But then I read Wrapped Up in Christmas Joy by Janice Lynn. And this one I gave a 3-star. It's a grumpy sunshine Christmas romance, but I thought the grumpy was just a little too grumpy. So 3 stars. It wasn't terrible, but I wouldn't say it's the best by any means. Then I read The Stranger in My Bed by Karen King, and this was another NetGalley read. I gave it 4 stars. It's kind of a thriller, and just like the domestic thriller that I really like. So in this one, it opens with somebody saying that they stripped the brakes in the guy's car, and we're sitting there going to watch him die, and he doesn't die. And so we're trying to figure out who did it, and it's just a very good domestic thriller, I would say. Then I read The Mistletoe Connection by Chelsea Pennington, and this one I think was my favorite read of the whole month. This one is about, it's a debut, first of all, a debut author. It's really cheap on Kindle. Like, I swear I don't have any, cred in this lady, but she is wonderful. She sent me the book to review, and I just loved it. It's about, I can't remember, a whole bunch of people that are stuck in an airport on Christmas Eve. And it goes through each of their perspectives, but it circles back to them too, and they're all connected in a very realistic way. Like, this girl ran into this guy at the snack shop because they are, and it's just so good. There's family stories, there's YA stories, there's romance, there's everything. There's so much going on in such a good, easy, quick, palatable holiday way. I would highly recommend it. Then I read Her Sister's Child by Allison James, and this was a NetGalley arc. I gave it 3 stars, and honestly, I'm not sure. The final copy of this might be a little bit better than the arc that I read, because some of the issues that I had were just formatting issues, because it was supposed to be in 3 parts, but then there's a random untitled part in the middle, and so formatting was a tough deal. But then also, just the storyline. This woman's baby is kidnapped, and then she's found dead a couple days later. And so our main character and her old guy friend try to figure out what happened. And I honestly can't remember a whole lot of the details. It's kind of fuzzy. I almost considered DNFing it at multiple points in the book because I just was not enjoying it. Then I read Love and Lockdown by Chloe James. And this one I gave 3 stars. It's about a guy and a girl who they are in quarantine, both have different things going on. She is a teacher, so she's still kind of out and about, and she kind of takes care of her apartment building, like the people in it. She'll do grocery shopping and that kind of stuff. But her and this guy form this relationship just based on like their balconies or whatever. But they don't see each other because they're on top of each other because of it's an apartment complex. So it's their romance. I liked it, and I liked there's chronic illness rep because they both have a different chronic illness, but I just felt like I didn't really feel the chemistry, and the main characters were kind of dull. Like the side characters and all the other people in the apartment building and that kind of stuff were way more interesting than our main characters, and so 3 stars. It was okay. Then I read The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. Clearly, this was my reading books by authors with the same name as me. So, Chloe Benjamin, I gave it 3.5 stars. This one is Zoe from Zoe Delaney, I think is what her channel name is called, but she loves this book, and I really like her, and so I thought I was going to give it a shot. And so this is about 4 siblings, I think, who find out there's this woman that can tell you the exact date you're going to die. So as kids, they find out their death date. And then it follows each of their 4 stories to see, like, do they die on that day? What happens? And it really was, like, very thought-provoking. I don't know if I already said I gave it 3.5 stars. It was very thought-provoking because it's like, if it comes true, is it because she said it was going to come true or because you lived your life knowing you were going to end that day? It was very, very interesting. Some of the stories were better than others, but overall, I enjoyed it. So then I read Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese, and I gave this one 3 stars. So this one's about Willa and Ryder, and Willa is a soccer star, and she's got kind of a lot going on, and so she is not, like, she needs a little help in this class, so her teacher pairs her with Ryder. And Ryder comes off at first as like a big jerk, but we find out later why he is that way. And so it's their kind of like hate to love relationship. There's a lot going on in the book that like is deeper, but it also has this like fun, flirty, new adult romance. And I enjoyed it. It just was kind of missing something for me. I don't know. Our main female, Willa, she is kind of a hothead, and there's a lot more smut than I typically enjoy. And I don't know, 3 stars. Then I read Size 12 and Ready to Rock by Meg Cabot, and this one I gave a very low 3 stars. This is number 4 in the Heather Wells mystery series, and I think this book is actually what made me decide to DNF the series. Like, it's a 5-book series, so I only have one more left, but I'm not going to read it, and I unhauled all but the first one because this is like a mix of rom-com and cozy mystery kind of. Heather Wells is this woman who used to be a pop star, and then she, quote-unquote, got fat, but she is a size 12, and the first one's called Size 12 is Not Fat. And so now she's working at a residence hall for a college in New York City, and people keep dying in the residence hall. So each story is the story of a death that happens in the residence hall. So this one's just kind of another one. Her ex-boyfriend is also a pop star as well as his current fiance, and she decides to film a show in the dorm, and so it's that. It was just really, really a low side of okay. Then I read The Way You Make Me Feel by Maureen Gu, and I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought it was cute. It's a YA about this girl who has plans to go. Her mom is like an influencer who goes all over the country or all over the world all the time. So for her summer, she was going to go with her mom. Well, she gets in trouble for getting in a fight, so she has to stay and work with her dad on his food truck. So it's her and then kind of like an unlikely friendship as well as a romance. But I felt like the romance was really weak. And the food truck element, I just really wanted more from it because for being like her punishment that she has to work there all the time, she just didn't spend that much time there. So there's also a lot of like telling, not showing, both in the friendship and the relationship, because the girl she got in a fight with also has to work with her. And so they become true friends, of course, but it was a lot of telling, not showing. And then I read Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, and I was attempting this as a buddy read with Cozy Reader Kelly as well as Tara from Buzzword Books. And I like skim read it all in a night because it's about the last woman executed in Iceland. And so it's historical. It's also very slow and atmospheric. So if you like slow, atmospheric, kind of chilling books, you might really like this. I know a lot of people do really like it. It's just very slow. It's very ominous. There's a lot of Icelandic words and names and things that made it like kind of hard for me to get into the story. And just the writing style is just not for me. It was just too hard to get into and to care, and like there wasn't, you know how it's going to end because she's the last woman executed. It's fiction, but they basically send her to this farm instead of putting her in a jail. So it's her life with these people as she's waiting her execution. Then I read The Christmas Room by Katherine Anderson, and I gave that 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was just a little bit too long. So it's a Christmas romance. This guy and this girl meet, and then their parents actually have a romance too. And so it's cute. It's fun. They're both single parents, I think, or he for sure is. And it just got a little slow in the middle. It's just a little bit too long. So 3.5 stars. Then I read Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, and I gave this 4 stars. And like the longer I sit with it, the more I like it. So this one is about a mother and daughter who, their dad, like it's a pretty happy family, but then something happens to the dad, and so the mom and daughter have kind of a strained relationship. The mom got pregnant when she was like 17 or something, and so she is trying really hard to make sure her daughter, who is now a teenager, does not follow in the same footpath. And so their relationship becomes strained, and the daughter becomes very like resentful because she blames her for things that she didn't actually do. But this shows like a mother's love, that she would like rather let her daughter hate her than like expose somebody else that the daughter loves that is actually to blame, if that makes sense. I'm being kind of cagey on purpose because I don't want to spoil anything, but I love it. If you love Colleen Hoover, definitely check it out. And I read I Work at a Public Library, a collection of crazy stories from the stacks by Gina Sheridan. And this is the book that we read for our Book Sisters book club for Nonfiction November. And I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if that's like an appropriate rating or not, because for what it was really cute. It's just that. It's a series of like little stories of things that have happened in the library. And I think it helped us as readers realize like how many hats a librarian wears and what all they do and what all they're involved in. And some of the stories were really touching, some were really funny, and they're just really short. It's like a 150-page book. It is a very, very quick read, and for what it was, I really enjoyed it. Then I read Sunrise on Half Moon Bay by Robin Carr, which, like I said, is one of my favorites of the month. It's about 2 sisters who, they're like 20 years apart or something. One has dedicated her life to taking care of their mother, who had an illness, and then the other has gone on to be this high-powered lawyer. She has a family of her own. She's the older sister, so she kind of got out before the mom got sick, and then the younger one who ended up, still being in the house when the mom got sick, and so she dedicated her life to taking care of her. Well, both of their lives kind of fall apart because the mom passes away, so the younger sister is like, what is my purpose now? Because she, like, that had been her full-time job, is taking care of their mom. And the older sister, I think her husband's cheating on her, and so they just have to like come back together as sisters, and I love that. My sister and I are 9 years apart, and so some of what was talked about I really, really related to, just in not necessarily like being connected at multiple points in life because you're just at such different stages, but then now that they're both adults and everything, they are able to find a different common ground, and I loved that. I really loved the focus on the sister relationship. Then I read First Frost by Sarah Addison Allen. This one I buddy read with Rainey from Rainy Day Reads, Krista from Books and Jams, and Jen, who is I think just a viewer. I don't think she has a channel, but the 4 of us read that because it came up in a live show or something, and I had never read Sarah Addison Allen, and I know that Krista is a big fan of hers. So she has like a little bit of magical realism in a contemporary book, and so I was really intrigued. However, this is number 2 in a series, and it's the Waverly Family series, and I feel like you really needed to read the first one because these women have magic powers, and it's like a whole family, and so it's a very slow book that it's really just like the next pieces in the lives of these people. And because I was not introduced to the people and like I didn't get to know them in the first book, I had a hard time caring about the second book. So I gave that 3 stars, but that's with a grain of salt because I did not read the first one. Then I read November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. I didn't like it as much as Regretting You, but I did still really like it. It's about a couple who meet, he kind of like swoops in and saves her as a young girl when her dad is kind of like not being the kindest to her, and pretends to be her fake boyfriend. And so then they spend this evening together, but she is about to leave to move somewhere else. And so then they decide to meet up every November 9th. And I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's not my favorite Colleen Hoover, but I would still recommend it. Then I read The Matchmaker by Ellen Hildebrand, and I love Ellen Hildebrand, so I was shocked when this was just a 3-star for me. It's about this woman who is a matchmaker, but she, like, that's not her professional job. Like, she works at the city council or somewhere, and it's just like all about her and her life. And something about it I just didn't connect with, and it was not my favorite. There's a lot of better ones in my opinion. Then I read You Can Thank Me Later, which is a Thanksgiving Day novella, and it's about this family on 3 different Thanksgiving days, so like 2018, 19, and 20, or 17, 18, 19, whatever. And it's about these siblings and their lives. And I gave it 3 stars. It was a quick listen. It was cute enough, but nothing exceptional. Then I read Grace by Richard Paul Evans, and I gave that one 3 stars, which, looking back on it, maybe is a little bit higher than that, maybe more like a 3.5, but Richard Paul Evans is known for like his Christmas books, and he's got this tone that is very like heavy yet hopeful, if that makes any sense. And so this one is about this boy who meets this girl who is being abused, and so he like kind of hides her, takes her in, and takes care of her. And that's all I really want to say. The ending is like really sad. But it's a good story. It is a good, hard story. It's not really Christmassy, and like there is still that glimmer of hope, but it just was, I think my expectations for it were a little bit different. Then I read Real Moms, Exploring the Myths of Motherhood by Elisa Morgan. And this is a nonfiction kind of about just the myths of motherhood, like what you should have and what you should do and the kind of mom you should be and the way everybody else is supposedly feeling. And I gave this one 3 stars. It started off strong again, but I felt like it was really like battling within itself of if it wanted to be this like conversational, like I'm your girlfriend tone, or if it wants to be like, this is what God says you should be and you should be doing, and these are the truths you should be aligning your life with. And so it was a very weird thing, the way it kept like switching back and forth between trying to teach you something and trying to be your friend. I really wish it would have picked one or the other. Then I read Lost and Found by Jacqueline Sheehan. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. However, it is a short book, and it tackled a lot. Like, it went very wide and not quite as deep as I wanted, I guess. And look up triggers for this book. I put some in my Goodreads review, I think, because there's just trigger warnings for everything, and it was good. It just tried to tackle a lot in a really small package. Then I read 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's a really cute YA Christmassy book about this girl. She walks into this party and overhears her boyfriend saying he wants to break up with her. So she's like, all right, cool. I'm going to do this before you can. Like, we're done. And so she goes back to her family's house, or her like grandma's house, for Christmas. And her big family sets her up on 10 blind dates. And her family is just so great. There's like cousins and everything like that. Her mom and dad and sister are not there because her sister is like at the end of pregnancy and she's got like high blood pressure, and so she is on bed rest. So her immediate family is not there, but the rest of her family is. And it was so cute and funny, and you definitely know from the beginning, like from pretty early on, I guess, who she's going to end up with. But the journey was just so fun, and like I want to go on all the dates she did. They were so festive and fun, and I would highly recommend that one. Then I read Eleanor Roosevelt, Fighter for Justice by Eileen Cooper. This is I would say middle grade nonfiction, just kind of overview about Eleanor Roosevelt's life and what kind of woman she was, and like where she came from and how she ended up where she ended up. And I just thought it was really great. I would really love for my daughters to read it when they get older, just to know like she was a woman in times where women had to fight for the right to vote, and yet she was just this presence and political power, and she was a wonderful lady. Then I read Safe With Me by Amy Happany, and this one was so good. I gave it 4 stars. It's like exactly the kind of book I like. It's about this mother who is a single mom because she had a baby from a sperm bank. She wanted a baby, but it just wasn't happening for her, so that's how she did it. And now her daughter is like 12 or something like that, and she gets hit by a car. So then it's another story of a mother and daughter who the daughter has this like kidney disease that she needs or a liver disease. I'm sorry, that I think it's a liver that she needs a transplant. So she's on the transplant list. So the two stories interconnect, and this book had me in tears, and I'm not a crier, and it was just a very, very good story, and also made you think about a lot of different things. I'll just say that. Safe With Me was the last one. So that is all of the books I read in November. Thank you for hanging with me through this video. It was a lot. Like I said, go to the vlogs if you want to hear more of my thoughts, but let me know if you've read any of the ones that I read, or if you're interested in picking them up after I've talked about them. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.